Kenya had its most successful Olympics ever in Rio de Janeiro, despite chaotic preparations that included missing kits and inadequate training facilities. A report has exposed how the country's sports officials mismanaged the team. The government ordered investigations after allegations of corruption against the National Olympic Committee of Kenya, claiming that some of the $5.7 million Olympic budget was stolen. Since the committee began its investigation, Kenya's Olympic team leader has been charged with stealing $256,000, and 3 other senior Olympic Committee officials face charges of stealing Nike sports gear that were meant for athletes. Despite this level of ineptitude by team officials, Kenya still managed to secure 13 medals in total in Rio, including 6 gold. For more on sports administration woes facing Kenya, we're joined in studio by Cynthia Mumbo, the founder of Sports Connect Africa. Cynthia, it's great to have you in studio tonight.
Thank you.
So the investigations are out. What are Kenyans expecting to be the next course of action?
I'll jump onto something that's a little bit off, but it's basically what Kenyans are thinking. They've seen what Matiang'i has done with education. I had to bring that up. That's what they're expecting with sports. I mean, Kenyans are shocked that somebody has done their job the way it should have been done, with efficiency and effectiveness. And that's what their expectation is, that sports should be run in an efficient and effective manner, that if money is allocated, it should go into the right place. They're expecting that people should be held accountable. They're expecting that governance should be the way forward. So I think that's the expectations of all Kenyans today. Yeah.
And how big an impact does this play in future corporate relations with the sports industry?
I'll tell you, coming from a sports background, any business out there today is thinking, my brand cannot be associated with this.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that they sit and think about, that if I'm going to put my brand somewhere, it has to be, in relation to my values. If I am brand so-and-so, then, my values are integrity first. I think every single company that works out there says, my brand cannot be touched by stuff that doesn't, connect with our values, and basically that's the really most important thing. That if the values of what sports is holding are not connected to what the corporates are thinking, you're not going to get their money. Sports is business. I don't think we still consider sports as business in this country. How many people make a living out of sports, apart from what we see our special athletes going out of this country and doing really great outside? Can you guarantee a Kenyan making $100,000 in Kenya today? Not even a team makes $100,000 in a league today, and so if corporates want to be involved, sports has to start thinking corporate. They have to work as corporate. They have to brand themselves. They have to deliver some sort of strategy that other corporates can be able to connect with. Yeah.
But I guess for Kenyans, this isn't something new. I mean, over the years, Kenyans have cried about mismanagement of sports. There's huge potential in the country, and a lot of people feeling this hasn't really been properly tapped. So moving forward, here in Kenya and even elsewhere in the continent, how do we curb these perennial cases of mismanagement in sports?
There has to be a lot of goodwill. It has to come from everybody. We have to demand that there has to be some sort of change. There has to be some sort of value. Gambia voted in somebody new. The people spoke.
The inspiring story
yes,
right now.
The inspiring story right now. And when people sit down, it's really a matter of we are the people. The people today are the athletes. If athletes sit down and say we're not going to run until we're sorted out, look at Ethiopia today. Who is leading the Athletics Federation? It's Gebre Selassie. Why? Because the athletes stood up and spoke and said, you understand what we're about? Can you really come up and do something that is definitive of what we're looking for, as an industry, as a sports industry? So
when you talk of goodwill, it's goodwill where? From the political class or from the athletes or from who?
It's from me as a fan. If I say I'm not going to watch a KPL game, and I'm not saying that they don't do their stuff right, but I'm just using that as an example. Right. If we demand that sports needs to look in some sort of way, as athletes, as fans, there has to be some sort of demand. I think you can see what happened even with FKF. The Kenyans spoke. and said, look, guys, we need change, and change is coming about. Now, I believe that the team that's there is doing what should be done and what should have been done, but that's something that can go through to every single team, if you ask me, with every single sport. That the fans sit down and say, we want our sports to be at a particular level. The athletes demand their rights. Do we have athletes who are, who are on contract? If you go across Africa, the other day there's one other station that did, FIFPro, did research on athletes, footballers in Africa, and it's unbelievable. 70% of African footballers are not on contract. So can you imagine, if I'm not on a contract, what am I playing for? What is it? You cannot, that can't happen in Europe, that cannot happen in Australia, that cannot happen in, in Asia. So why are we allowing it to happen here?
And I'm still stuck on what you said, sports is business. So when you talk about these huge figures of African footballers, for instance, who don't have a contract, then I'm thinking, in the case of Kenya specifically, given the mismanagement that's, caught the world's attention, how then do we attract brand X, brand investor so-and-so, brand X in sports? Is it enough to just charge people and take them to court? Does that do it?
Well, you charge them and then you bring in a new office. I'd like to, request for the private sector to get more involved in sports. They can make money out of sports. I know that that's all it's not all they think about, but a lot of businesses think that if I'm going to put in my money, then I must make a return. And it's a challenge to business people in this country and across Africa that as much as you're putting your money in education, you're putting your money in all other industries, do you think that you can put your money? Can you buy a team in a Premier League somewhere and change the lives and change how that league is managed? I mean, how that team is managed, so that you're giving players something that they can look forward to at the end of the day. As a business person, you're changing lives, you're creating employment, you're creating opportunities. That's what business is. It has to start from that grassroots level, where you're putting money into the sport from that level of the player and the athlete. The other thing is federations need to really overhaul how they're working.
All right, Cynthia, thank you very much for those insights. We've got to leave it there because of time. Great insights there. Thank you. Cynthia Mumbo with us here in studio.